Well, it wasn't a classic, but there's definitely a lot to talk about. So let's get into the game of Liverpool versus Chelsea. Stick around. Hello guys and welcome back to another video here at the Blue Pride of London. I'm your host Nathan and it's an absolute pleasure to have all of you here tuned in today. Thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail. But before we get started, I would truly hope that you would consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that thumbs up button at any point if you do in fact like this video, because it really does help us out. But let's get into the game of Liverpool versus Chelsea because there is an awful lot to talk about. So yeah, let's move into it. So firstly, guys, I'd like to apologise for this video being a little bit late. I had a family barbecue yesterday. My mother got to see her granddaughter for the first time, so I wasn't unable to record the video yesterday. So apologies for being a little bit late, but I still wanted to make this video because the game against Liverpool, it has a lot of questions, it has a lot of answers, and for me, overall, I think we performed sensationally considering the circumstances that we got put under. Now, going into the game itself, both teams seemed to be quite confident. They had a 100% record in the Premier League so far. 2 wins, 2 games, and I don't think anyone's actually conceded against either team at the time. So yeah, both teams went into this game with extreme confidence. And for Chelsea, I think this was definitely going to be our first test of the season. And boy, did it really turn out to be a really big test indeed. So the lineup itself, I pretty much got spot on. So let's have a quick little look at this graphic here by OneFootball from their sort of app, which is an app that I use to get most of my football news when it comes to Chelsea and any other sort of transfers and stuff like that. So let's have a quick little look at the lineup and then we can sort of discuss how the players sort of performed going forward. So as I said, I pretty much got 100% accurate on my team selection. And, you know, we performed sensationally throughout this first half, because they say football's a game of 2 halves, and this was definitely the sort of outcome of this particular game. So going first in goal, we had Mendy, who probably performed out of his skin in this entire game. The back three, Christensen, probably, you know, he had a man of the match performance, and you know, he's thoroughly deserved it. We'll go into sort of like the player in a little while. With the wing backs, Alonso and James, yeah, I don't think you can fault them really much in the first half. I think they did an absolutely brilliant job. The central pivot of Jorginho and Kante, and also Mason Mount, Havertz and Lukaku up front. You know, in the first half, they were brilliant. They were good, they were dominant, they were fantastic. And in the second half, we had a defensive display that would definitely go down in the history books as one of the best in the Premier League's history, not necessarily just in Chelsea's history. So let's quickly move on to player performances overall. Now, Mendy in the first half didn't really have much to do. He was quite sort of like an observer. Yeah, Liverpool attacked a few times, but he didn't really have much to sort of like to busy himself going forward. But in the second half, he literally saved this point for us going forward into this game. I think the stats said that he saved 3 chances from Liverpool in the second half, which, if I read correctly, was the most Chelsea have sort of faced in the last 2 or 3 seasons in one particular game. And when he was called upon, he literally outperformed himself. In the first half, all the team played really, really well. We got forward perfectly, and it was a corner and a header by Kai Havertz that opened the scoring. Sensational corner coming into the near post. Kai Havertz flicked it on, deliberately aimed for the far post, and it went in. But let's talk about the big changing point of the game, because Chelsea were quite dominant in this game. Yeah, Liverpool had a lot more of the possession going forward, but Chelsea really reacted on the counter-attacks. And it was a little bit of a mix-up and a mash-up in one of the Liverpool attacks, which eventually sort of got cleared off the line by Reece James. And which, you know, contrary whatever you want to believe in this thing, the ball struck his arm, which would have actually gone in, and obviously the penalty was given. I will truly say that it is definitely a penalty. It was a handball, either being deliberate or accidental, we don't know. And I don't think Reece James's arm going forward at that particular time sort of helped his case. But I will definitely sort of question the idea, was it in fact a red card? A foul, yes. A penalty, yes. But a straight red card, oh. If you read into the rules of the game, a deliberate or an accidental handball that can stop a clear goal scoring opportunity is a red card. But there has been a petition put together for a lot of Chelsea fans, or maybe even football fans, that Anthony Taylor will not actually referee a Chelsea game again. And I think it's, at the time of recording, when I sort of had a quick little look at it this morning, over 60,000 people have signed this petition itself. Now, a lot of question is that VAR is there to sort of assist the referees if they're not entirely too sure, because in real time it looked like it came off his thigh and then onto his chest and then came out. But instead of actually watching the video, he looked at a still, which clearly showed the ball hitting Reece James's arm, and that's when he made his decision from. He didn't take much time. He literally looked at it, decided, and gave him a straight red, which even some of the Liverpool players seemed a little bit shocked by the matter. But that did completely and utterly change the game completely. Mo Salah stepped up to take the penalty. And, you know, with most penalties, we know Mendy isn't his sort of like, he's not a stopper. He's not a penalty stopper. Hence the reason why Kappa came on during the Super Cup for the penalties himself. But it is also a lottery. If he went the right way, he would have saved it. Maybe Mo Salah would have got the rebound. We don't know. But of course, that takes us into the second half with only 10 men, and Liverpool had everything going in their favour. But the Chelsea defence performed unbelievable. Now, I was worried when we went down to 10 men. I remember speaking to my brother a little bit about it, because last time Chelsea went down to 10 men, we got absolutely thumped 5-2, I do think, against West Brom, and literally the entire team collapsed. But in this game, it looks like they have worked quite hard on the idea of what would happen if we went down to 10 men. And we had a thick blue line stopping every single effort coming over from Liverpool. We actually restricted them to sort of like long shots from outside the box, which Mendy literally saw coming every right and center. He was always in the right place at the right time, and a sensational man of the match performance by Christian. He is really starting to come into his own as a natural replacement for Thiago Silva, which we seemed sort of like when we have spoken about in previous videos, that he is the person coming forward to sort of replace the aging defender. But even when Thiago Silva did come on at the expense of Kai Havertz, which, you know, you can see the disappointment in his eyes. You know, when he sat there next to Timo Werner, you could just see, oh, why have I been sort of like sacrificed for this? But a sacrifice had to be made, and unfortunately it was him. But one of the greatest things about this particular performance, not only did Chelsea not collapse under the pressure of being a man down for an entire second half, and when Liverpool just sort of dominated possession and shots and everything like that, Chelsea just didn't sit there and put everybody behind the ball. We still created chances. There were a couple of opportunities where I think we almost could have actually nicked the win. I do remember a sensational sort of like flying volley from Lukaku, which got blocked at point blank range, which if he sort of like got himself in a better position, or the Liverpool player weren't particularly there, that would have been a goal, and 10-man Chelsea would have actually ended up winning this game, because of the way that our defence performed. I couldn't see Liverpool scoring. I really, really couldn't. When Mendy was literally behind every single long shot going, or our defence put in a solid blue wall, and I think the entire team in the second half performed out of their skin. They would have definitely have had the reminder of last time we went 10 men down, we did sort of collapse and it did sort of help us all. But that back five, as long as like Lukaku, Mason Mount, everybody seemed to sort of like know their job. They sort of knew their place, and Lukaku was there getting ready for the sort of the counter attack going forward. There was quite often when he would collect the ball in the Liverpool's half, he was by himself and he had to hold up that ball, and he always seemed to find a pass towards a Chelsea player running towards the Liverpool goal. And yeah, I see this as a very important point. I think by the end of the league, when it's all done and dusted, and hopefully Chelsea is sitting there with the Premier League trophy in their hands, aloft above their heads, celebrating on the last game of the season, that this is one of the games we will look at going, do you know what? This is how you win a Premier League. This is how you sort of perform to your best ability. Everybody expected Liverpool to win that game. Everybody expected Liverpool to go off and probably win like 3-1 or 4-1, but they didn't. And you could just see the frustration in both the sort of like Liverpool team and Urban Klopp that we just couldn't break down the Chelsea back line. Yeah, there was a bit of complaint that maybe Chelsea just sat back, but I didn't sort of see that in this particular game. I saw that Chelsea did sit back, and once they got the ball, the first thing, instead of just sort of like lobbing it as long as they could and waiting for the attack to come back, they tried to pass their way out and tried to move forward as a team. Yeah, keeping people back. There was even an opportunity when we had a corner in sort of the later stages of the second half where the majority of the Chelsea team came to attack that corner and just left Christensen by himself by the halfway line, which just goes to show the sort of like the mentality of this Chelsea team. They sat there and went, yeah, we might be only down to 10 men, but we could still win this game. And they did. They did not disappoint. I think every Chelsea fan walked away from this game going, man, we're title contenders. Like, we're showing the rest of the league that even when you're down to 10 men, you can't beat this team. We will still try to win it. And you can just see the frustration on the Liverpool team when they finished, went, why? How did we not win this game? How did we not win against 10 people? So overall, I am extremely pleased by this. And yeah, we are now going to go into an international break. So we've got a couple of weeks before we play again. I think we've got Aston Villa at home, and a lot of our players will go away on international duty. So yeah, there's a little bit of time for us to sort of regroup, rehash ourselves forward, and go into our next game. So you won't be seeing me for a couple of weeks because I don't sort of commentate on England games, but I would like to hear your thoughts on this Chelsea performance. What did you think of the overall team? Do you think that this was a positive result, or do you think we should have ended up sort of like going forward? And what are your thoughts on Anthony Taylor? Do you think he has got a grudge against Chelsea, or do you think he made the right decision? So please, guys, write your comments in the box just down there. I will reply to them and have a nice little chat with you. But until next time, guys, enjoy the football, enjoy the international break, and I will see you next time. Cheerio.